Well, good day, friends and family from around the world. This is Mike with Morning Dew, daily events worldwide. I've got a different video for you here. I want to talk to you about solar cycles. Our sun, believe it or not, produces climate change from space on our planet. Yes, indeed it does. And throughout history, we've been recording sunspots, which actually correlate with minimums and maximums. So there we're looking at a maximum. We haven't had a maximum since the 1950s so dramatic. So who's to say that we are global warming? After an 11-year maximum, or during the maximum, we see increased solar flares and geomagnetic activity from the sun. Sunspots are in the plentiful. But every 250 years, which is documented, we go into a longer 11-year minimum. And recently, scientists have discovered the statistical links to the sun's energy output and the number of sunspots on its face. Examining historical records, they found that in the period from 1640 to 1720, the number of sunspots fell dramatically, and so did the Earth's average temperature, plunging an average 2 degrees Fahrenheit. The effect was particularly noticeable in the northern Europe, where glaciers advanced southward and winters were especially harsh. Now this is what our sun looks like during a minimum. And that's what we're going through right now, is quite possibly an extended solar minimum, or in other words, a grand solar minimum. So we could possibly be dipping into a 250-year cycle, an elongated solar minimum, quite possibly 30 to 40 years, if it is anything like the Maunder minimum. Recorded back in the late 1600s to early 1700s. 400 years of sunspot recordings. So, as our little planet spins around our solar system, the major player is our sun. Many scientists say that to better understand why the Earth is warming, you have to look at the main source of the heat, the sun. As with any other global warming theory, the effect of the sun's influence is still being debated. But many researchers feel that the solar variability could be responsible for at least a third of the temperature rise seen in the past century. To astronomers, our sun is known as a variable star because its production of the radiation varies in a cycle that lasts every 11 years. A pattern discovered by amateur astronomer Henrik Schwab in 1843. The variation is small, only about 1%, but it is thought that the fluctuation has been greater over longer time scales, changing by as much as 0.5%. So there is an overwhelming debate around the world with our scientists and our government officials, and are we global warming? Or are we global cooling? Has the Industrial Revolution really warmed our planet in the last 30 to 50 years? No. It was actually warmer back in the early 1900s. 1958 was our last recorded warmest maximum cycle. So debate on, people. Get in the comment section. Tell me what you think. And please listen to this quick podcast. I've got a mathematician and a statistical analyst here. We're going to call him Carl. I met him a few days ago. Very interesting podcast.
Sure. Okay. So if you examine the data set that is readily available, good quality data set that's updated every day from NOAA.
Noah.
Exactly.
Yes.
This is the scientifically accepted data set that is used for modeling atmospheric temperature gradients, which I did in my experience and have actually done real research on.
And myself as well. So you're going to love my channel once you get on there.
This is the thing. If you analyze the stream of temperature data points combined with the inherent error bars with each, there is no statistically objective way to identify either a cooling, stable, or warm. So here's the thing. If you did the same analysis that they're doing using the climate data in the stock market, using projected returns, you would be imprisoned for fraudulent practices. So my question is, why is there one standard for data in the stock market? And don't get me wrong, I've worked in that sector. I know how dangerous it can be when people manipulate data. So my question is, why do we not apply the same standard of data integrity, quality, and statistical practice to major decisions about the future of our country?
Yes. And why are they not talking about the solar cycles and how they're actually affecting the climate extreme events around the world right now more than ever?
That's
it's
true.
Not because of us.
That's true. And the thing is that, okay, how do you model rare events such as hurricanes? You model them with a Poisson distribution.
Yeah.
When you have a hypothesis, the statistically, scientifically acceptable way to do a hypothesis test, what you do, there is a margin of error. And I can't go into all the mathematics of it, but their claim that the frequency of these events has increased is bogus, because it doesn't, they can't show within a 95% confidence interval that it is, that what they call typically the lambda parameter in a Poisson distribution has changed. They cannot prove it. So they're working with probably fake data. Let's assume that their data is perfect. It's purest gold, okay? The processes of statistics that they're applying to that data is not correct.
Right.
It is not correct.
Yeah.
If you did that on a statistics 101 course in a university, if they applied those practices and concluded that the Earth is warming based on that data set, they would fail their course.
Yes.
But you look at these people, they're uneducated. That's why they're bringing children into it. Children don't know stats. Why are they taking math out of schools?
Yeah.
Like, seriously, if they think the world is going to end, we need scientists to change it. Let's get rid of social science. Let's get rid of the humanities. Let's stop all of it, because we need to train everyone to be scientists, to put our brains together to solve this.
Yeah.
But that's
well,
no
what are they
fun.
What are they gonna say 10 years from now when we've actually dipped into another Dalton mini ice age?
Honestly, I will say that there's no way to predict whether that will or won't happen.
250-year cycle. It's documented.
250 years, possibly. I'll say that.
It's documented.
But, well, at that point, they're all going to have collected their carbon tax and have paid off their union. Their union.
Yeah, we're having a podcast.
Their union people that want higher wages, just like in this province. You had Rachel Notley brought in this carbon tax. Let's just say it was positively motivated. Let's just assume that. I'll give her the benefit of the doubt for half a moment.
do you think that the Industrial Revolution has really made an impact on Earth's atmosphere and its climate?
The one thing that I would say, and this is actual documented issues, okay? The one major thing that industrialization and people living in large cities has done to the Earth, it has created a very big problem of sewage. That is a major problem. And by the way, I didn't see one of these people talking about that.
Yeah.
And especially since the 1960s, and this is, not politically correct to say, but, well, I'm going to go ahead and say it because it is reality. The hormones that are coming from the pill that came out at that time, and its prevalence throughout the world as it spread from one country to another, this has created a really, really, really big problem. This is something that you'll never get these people talking about, because when you really look at them, like, their messages are more anti-capitalist, anti-West, it's more anti-society than pro-environment.
Yeah.
Like, you really have to wonder, if you think the Earth is ending in 11 years, is your birth control pill that important that you can't give it up?
Yeah.
And then you have this other gentleman who was holding an Antifa flag, and he was from Venezuela. Sorry, do you still have room to record? Okay.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So you've got this guy holding Antifa flag, and he's got a cap from Venezuela. Now, Venezuela, you want to talk about the impact of I don't want to say industrialization, but you want to talk about the impact of humans on the environment. Look at Lake Maracaibo. That thing is an absolute disaster. But I guess it doesn't matter if they do it because they're good little socialists or whatever, And so yeah, it's interesting. It's an interesting sight to see in downtown Calgary, to say the least.
It was really, and I was alone. I stood in front, and they were crossing the street in front of City Hall there. And I stopped when they got in front, crossing up the street. They were chanting climate change. What was it? We will not let our planet die. I forget what they were saying. But I stood up and I said, it's not our fault. And I said, this would be happening nonetheless. And I said, where's your global warming? There's snow falling right now, and it's the second week of autumn.
Well, I told the one here when she went by, when she was saying, she was holding a sign saying, I'm burning alive with the planet. And I'm like, yeah, take off your winter jacket there.
Yeah.
Like take it off.
Right.
Wear some summer clothes. Show how much you're burning up.
Yeah.
It's just, it's very sad. All I can say to sum up is that it's very unfortunate that this debate has become obscured by people with no education, and when I mean education, there's lots of people who research the stuff themselves and learn the stuff on them by themselves, self-educated.
Right.
That's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
But these are people who can't answer basic questions such as what's the current ppm of carbon in the atmosphere. If you're protesting carbon,
depends on where you are.
yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
If you're in Nikolskoye, Russia, you'd be fucking. You'd feel that shit hitting you all over the place, and you'd smell it, and taste it.
That's right.
Those are the three major polluters.
That's right.
Manitoba, Canada. Nikolskoye, Russia. India.
Yeah.
China.
Yeah. Well, there was one lady who said that China had a score of 100 and Canada had a score of 0 on the environment.
Yeah.
So, like you really gotta wonder where these people get their research from. I have friends from China who've, like they said, you can't go out in Beijing. You cannot breathe the air in Beijing. But yet you have this, probably well-meaning, but horribly misinformed individual here in Calgary assigning this perfect score to China on climate justice. Like it really makes you wonder where these people get their information from.
Yeah.
And if the question is where they're getting their information from, how do you solve that? Because when you have a certain political and or ideological bias among the media, that's how you get this stuff. I'm sure if every channel was a replica of Fox News, you'd get 3 times the number of people like this going out to advocate
Right.
for gun rights, right?
Yeah.
But it's
You
like,
got that so right.
that's right.
Yeah.
And it just goes to show that the medium is the message.
Mm-hmm.
The medium is the message, and these people are just it's very unfortunate.
Climate change is a big business.
Of course it is. Of course it is. Well, you look at these scooters here in town. Like, that's whoever's
Came from San Francisco, actually.
they're making a
San
killing.
Francisco company. Yeah.
It's investment banking is really big into that right now, and
Yeah.
you know, and I just find it ridiculous that you have all of these people here, you know, talking about, they're holding these signs saying how evil corporations are. And then you have
I'm gonna see if they're coming back.
Yeah.
No, see, it's too cold for them.
I think it's too cold.
The planet's just heating up.
That's it. That's it. Isn't that something?
So, yeah, today in 160 countries worldwide, organized by the United Nations Climate Strike, I had a successful moment standing up and sharing my research, sharing my opinion, and I was swarmed. I was swarmed in front of City Hall.
In front. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. I silenced them at first.
Yeah.
What did I say? I said, oh yeah. My first comment was, where's your global warming? It's snowing. Second week of autumn. And everybody was like, huh? And I said, it's not our fault. I said, we'd be going through this nonetheless. We can blame the sun. Blame the sun for all of this. And they were like, oh, blah, 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 blah. What about Amazon? What about this and that? I'm like, yeah, well, you know what? There are changes happening worldwide, and it's more than just, you know, these extreme weather events. It's jet streams, it's polarities, it's our magnetic field, volcanism. You know, Krakatoa last year, when it erupted for 5 days straight, okay, released more carbon and sulfur into our atmosphere than we have in our lifetime.
He said, you can mention that it was warmer than today for at least 95% of the last 10,000 years. That's what he said.
James?
Yes, you know, I hope people watching this get the idea that there's a lot of data on the other side, that we're all fighting to get in pizza data because there's so much to say. And I just want to read something that they should read this at the Climate Summit. I think they should really read this today to describe what's going on. And this is from a reliable source, American Meteorological Society Monthly Weather Review publication, that the Arctic Ocean is warming up. Icebergs are growing scarcer, and in some places the seals are finding the water too hot, according to a report by the Commerce Department at Bergen, Norway. Reports from fishermen, sea hunters, explorers all over point to radical change in climate conditions. Why aren't they reading this? And hitherto unheard of temperatures in the Arctic zone. Exploration expeditions report scarcely any ice as far north as 81 degrees. Soundings show the Gulf Stream very warm. Masses of ice have been replaced by moraines of earth and stones, and it goes on and on. Within a few years, it's predicted that due to the ice melt, the sea will rise and make most coastal cities uninhabitable.
What year was that written?
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. This is 1922. This is November 1922, and this is real. This is not urban legend.
Yeah.
This has really happened. This was really reported. It was warm then, and then guess what happened after that? Of course, it cooled off, and so I just had to throw that. Monthly Weather Review.
Meteorological Society publication.
These were all facts. It was extremely warm back then in the polar regions.
Could I hit one up Tom for a second here? Okay. Tom mentioned 90% was 90% of the time since the Ice Age, the Earth was warmer than it is now. Actually, 90% of the time since creation, the Earth was warmer than it is now, because the geological evidence indicates that over all of geologic history, 4.65 billion years, somewhere between 5 and 10% of that time, was there any substantial ice on Earth. And now there is. There's Greenland, Antarctica, and then summer ice all over the planet, lots of places. So you're talking 5 or 10% of the time was the planet cooler than it is now.
Yeah, and just to add to that, we're at one of the lowest levels of CO2 in Earth's history. Okay,
Yes,
that's really
very good
important.
point.
I mean, 440 million years ago, when we were in the depths of the coldest period in the last half billion years, we had 1,100% of today's CO2 levels, according to geologic proxies. So, yeah, CO2 is very low right now. They say 40% rise in the last century since 1880. Well, that's peanuts in natural terms.
So
we should be very
wasn't there a carboniferous?
Carbon dioxide in this room is now around 900. Now, either we should be happy about it or perhaps evacuate the room for fear that there's something bad about it. There's nothing bad about carbon dioxide. The more, the better.